Reddit. What is a fact you know that sounds like a conspiracy theory? The Mormon church has so much money that everything they build, each church, temple, shopping mall, office building, is paid for in cash up front before a single brick is laid or shovel of dirt moved. It was wild when that guy tried to blow the whistle on some billion-dollar account they have so he could collect the fee for reporting them, and the IRS's response was just, yeah, we know about it. They pay all their taxes on that account. Then their accounting department was like, yeah, we also have this other billion-dollar account as well. A guy worked for their investment arm and in order to try and get a whistleblower payout just shot himself in the foot from ever being hired at a company doing finance work again. Both Russia and the US have trained dolphins, belugas, sea lions and seals for their militaries. Google military marine mammal, you won't be disappointed. The Norwegian government found one of the Russian spy dolphins and then adopted him. They found him swimming around following boats with a Russian camera strapped to him and was bashing into things trying to get the harness off. I mean, the Russian government's denied it, but I mean, you find a whale with a camera saying property of St. Petersburg on it a few hundred kilometers from a Russian base that's suspected of training sea animals. It's a bit hard to believe, given how he acted. I think the theory is that he escaped from a training facility, not that he was a proper spy dolphin yet. His name is Vladimir Putin. Val meaning whale and is pronounced Val, and he now live around in Hammerfest, which is a town way up north near the Russian border. He's really tame and apparently like being petted. There's been talk of relocating him to Svalbard, but I'm not sure what happened to those plans. Called the Stargate Project, the US military committed serious funding to use psychics for espionage during the Cold War. The project ran from the 1970s all the way until 1995. The only reason they called off the project was when the CIA took over the project from the Defense Intelligence Agency. They conducted a study to see if any of the funding had been worth it. As it turned out, psychics aren't real and the project was canned. I mean, the US also funded an expedition to the North Pole to find a hole inside the Earth where some sort of aliens or some crap were supposed to live. The Hollow Earth was actually a fairly mainstream theory in the 1800s, despite it being dumb as heck. Apple once programmed their iPhones to slow down in their performance after a certain amount of time to push people to buy new ones. They also do it with MacBooks. It was proved. Former Bears coach Mike Ditka and 7 of 9 actress Jeri Ryan are responsible for Obama becoming president. Obama in 2004 was a state senator running for the US Senate. His opponent was Jack Ryan. Jack Ryan was divorced from Jeri Ryan. It came out in the divorce papers that he brought her to swing clubs and wanted to have sex in front of people. Ryan dropped out of the race. Mike Ditka expressed interest in running as Ryan's replacement. The Dems did a poll and found that Ditka was competitive. So they gave Obama the keynote speech at Democratic convention that nominated John Kerry for president. Obama became a superstar overnight because of that speech and went on to win in 2008. College professors hired by the CIA created LSD and all your favorite research chemicals to control the population. 100% fact and completely ignored outside of being fun trivia. Albert Hofmann created LSD in Switzerland, pretty sure it had nothing to do with sire. The Harvard professor Timothy Leary did all of the first testing of psychedelics and he got all of the LSD and psilocybin he used from Switzerland, and this was well before all of the siren culture crap happened. 3 identical twins separated to 3 foster parents as a science experiment, nature versus nurture. The way they knew it was crazy AF. For more info just look up 3 Identical Strangers documentary. There is no such thing as 3 twins. They are triplets. The UK government and military has experimented in civilian numerous times, such as in 1963 they released zinc into the environment around Norwich and monitored human health after. Another time they even used live plague bacteria in the wild of Scotland. Disney has trademarked a hue of green to hide machinery in their theme parks. The reasoning is that the shade of green is so natural, the human eye overlooks it at first glance. I wonder how they found it. Back in 1978 to 1979 I worked for Independent Oil and Gas. I printed the dope on KS, OK and Northern TX. We had a daily edition, weekly and a monthly report on well activity. If a well was drilled and no other well was within a mile of it, it was a wildcat and they charged more for that oil. Also, there was a geologist next door to our office and he found a huge reserve out in Western KS. The info was never released. Digital versions of movies have watermarks consisting of small white dots at specific locations in specific frames. Only the studio knows when and where these are located and how to decipher them. They yield information about where the copy originated from. So if a film is leaked digitally, the studio will be able to trace the leak up to a certain point. Consuming beef is killing us, both by increasing the risk of colorectal cancer and by being a major contributor to climate change. The United States pays interest to a private corporation called the Federal Reserve every year. They control the issuance of US currency. True, but the use of the term corporation is somewhat misleading because it doesn't behave like business corporations. The Federal Reserve banks are not a part of the federal government, but they exist because of an act of Congress. Their purpose is to serve the public. So is the Fed private or public? The answer is both. While the Board of Governors is an independent government agency, the Federal Reserve banks are set up like private corporations. Member banks hold stock in the Federal Reserve banks and earn dividends. Holding this stock does not carry with it the control and financial interest given to holders of common stock in for-profit organizations. The stock may not be sold or pledged as collateral for loans. Member banks also elect 6 of the 9 members of each bank's board of directors. Apple used to set their iPhones to slow down after a specific length of time in order to encourage consumers to buy new ones. It's called power throttling and it reduces the death of the battery of old phones. It wasn't to encourage consumers to buy new ones. Oh, I have so many of them. The reason why the Republican Party went all anti-abortion in the 80s was so they could have a hot button issue to replace desegregation and keep their base radicalized. They worked with evangelical churches to do that, which allowed said churches also to have a radicalized, loyal congregation. The British government regularly destroyed documents relating to atrocities they committed during the British Empire years. They're still doing this today. The CIA is involved in drug smuggling and have killed journalists to keep that hushed up. The UK government is basically banning protesting when they disagree with it. Hitler modeled his plan for the Slavs after how the Native Americans were treated by the US government. Kill them all and shove the rest into reservations. He even named his personal train America until 1941 when America entered the war on the Allies' side. Rupert Murdoch regularly meets with the Prime Minister of the UK and tells them what to do in exchange for his paper's support. The CIA pays foreign newspapers to publish propaganda which American media can link to as fact. Those American media properties, like the Night Times and the La Times, have editors that are paid by the CIA to publish what the government wants them to say. This is Operation Paperclip and has been declassified, but the media doesn't report on it because they'd be admitting that they are bought stooges. The fact that all animals that eat vegetation are larger are typically fatter, and almost all carnivores predators are lean. When I went primarily carnivorous I lost 140 pounds. Yet the AHA food pyramid says carbs are at the base. I'm sure I'll get hate for this, but oh well. You're right, the food pyramid was a scheme to sell dairy products. Most people in power today, presidents, politicians, CEOs, actors, etc., are actually part of an intergalactic civilization of lizard people that can disguise themselves as humans. They run society, and people don't even know it. I've heard this conspiracy before and it makes it even funnier when people believe this type of crap. I think something very big and very bad will happen in this world. Every person can feel it but no one knows what it is. We will see. If it makes you feel any better, this has been thought for all of human history. Same goes for running out food and resources. The big media corporations are sabotaging Baton Rouge rapper NBA YoungBoy, YouTube, refusing to advertising his videos even though they hit 1 million views in a day whenever they drop. Twitter, Instagram, forced him to delete his accounts. Pop news websites, refusing to put any of YoungBoy's songs in their lists for best of 2021 even though he dropped one of the best albums this year. Sincerely, Kendrill. US government. trying to lock him up on charges and not letting him play more shows globally. This is due to Youngboy being the best rapper of the generation and they know they can't let him gain more power. Schools, factories, prisons, and hospitals all serve the same purpose. That there's a zombie apocalypse protocol in place. Don't know why we would ever need that, lol. Something I actually know some history on, as we studied it in several courses in college and one of my professors was involved in creating it. It basically functioned as a training exercise for how to deal with a wide-scale pandemic with high infection and mortality rate. It explains how people may react given this scenario and what the aftermath may be if it led to a collapse of society. And to someone thinking COVID-19 is a good case study, while there are several similarities, denial of its existence, downplaying the impact, and fighting to claim the right to be infected, the scenario is for much more impactful pandemics. One such example would be a re-emergence of smallpox, which could have a potentially greater than 50% fatality rate. All the unethical human experiments conducted by the US government. The Tuskegee syphilis experiment is the most well-known example, but there's also Operation Sea Spray in which the US Navy released various pathogens off the shore of San Francisco and deliberately infected nearly 800,000 people. Then there's the time when the US Atomic Energy Commission released iodine-131 and xenon-133 into the atmosphere over 3 towns in Washington. Basically, the US government has proven time and time again that it views all citizens as test subjects. Disclaimer: I am fully vaccinated. The US Navy secretly sprayed bacteria over the San Francisco Bay Area in California, infecting 800,000 residents, causing 11 deaths, a pneumonia outbreak, urinary tract and heart valve infections. It didn't cause 11 deaths. It caused 11 urinary tract infections, from which one person died. However, all 11 of those people had recently had operations performed at the same hospital they reported to, so it's more likely that the infections were caused by something inside the hospital. No other hospitals around the area reported anything similar, and the pneumonia outbreak you claim happened was actually only a few extra cases, which were determined to not be caused by the bacteria. The heart valve infections, similar to the UT ones, were not determined to be substantially related to the release of bacteria. Still fricked up, but not nearly as bad as you say. Abraham Lincoln was actually a racist. Many white people were at that time. I'm always shocked that people find this surprising. There are lots of views in between. Black people are not human. They are just property, and black people deserve all the same legal rights as white people. They are our equals. Many fell in between these two viewpoints, including some of those that were opposed to slavery. It's abhorrent to us today, but isn't logically contradictory to believe the following. Black people are inferior to white people and do not deserve the same rights and privileges white people enjoy. Still though, they are human and it is wrong to enslave them and treat them as property. This was basically Lincoln's view, at least at one point in his life. His views on this matter may have changed during his lifetime. In the US, before TV was on all the time, there used to be a TV sign-off in which they would play the national anthem along with sing-along lyrics. Slowed down, the lyrics reveal subliminal messages such as "Do not question government, rebellion is not tolerated, consume obey." If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.